Well, hi there. Warm welcome. You're watching Blueprint Explosive Exclusive, and I'm Meghna Deka. Well, this is India's Top Gun moment. Well, that's right. The daddy of all defense deals, the mega Rafale pact, has been cleared by the Defense Acquisition Council. This will be India's biggest fighter jet purchase ever. 114 Rafale F4s from France. It's also the most expensive defense deal ever, worth 3 lakh crore rupees. Well, there are those who have called it the defense paradox, the great India defense paradox, to ensure that there is national security. But what about self-reliance or made in India? By importing Rafale jets from France, did Make in India take a hit? Well, it's not as simple as that. It is very layered. There are wheels within wheels. We will, over the course of our show, tell you exactly how Desi our Rafales will be. From BrahMos missiles to manufacturing wings and maintenance, what's going to be Indian about the much needed upgrade of our aging fleets, and why the staggered approach in delivery of the Rafales from France. But first, let's start with the big numbers. What are the big numbers that we are talking about? The deal, how much is it worth for? What does it do for you? And why is it so very important? The deal is worth 3 lakh crore rupees, one of the highest ever. Not one of, it is the highest ever in Indian defense acquisition history. Aircrafts that we are going to be procuring is 114 Rafale F4 jets. 18 jets are going to be in the flyaway condition. What does it mean? It means that they are already built and ready. They're going to be manufactured, built in France, assembled in France, and then brought to India. But close to 90 jets, and these are approximate figures because this over the years may be changing. There is going to be ambiguity till the time comes. But roughly 80, 90 jets, they're going to be built in India. At least that is what the dream is. So the deal is going to be structured to try and balance out speed with indigenization. Need of the hour, of course, is to try and replenish India's aging fleet while India ramps up industrial capability for large-scale fighter production. Because essentially, how do you ensure that immediately you get new jets if you do not have manufacturing capability, which is currently there in India? Let's tell you. First step is going to be a flyaway, and the second one is going to be made in India, where you have the two of them on your screens. First, flyaway. What does it mean? It means that there are going to be 18 Rafale jets. They are all going to be built in France, and they are going to be ready for service. And then you have the Make in India. That's going to be the second stage in this deal. 96 Rafale jets are going to be 96. We still are waiting for those exact numbers, are likely to be made in India. Licensed production is going to happen in India. About 80% of them are likely to be assembled in India as well. But how Indian are these Rafales really going to be? Remember, indigenization is the most contested part of the deal, and critics have been very vocal about it, and it is very politically sensitive as well, because there are long-term targets also which need to be set. For example, let's tell you what that means is that there is going to be the long-term target, which is approximately 50% to 60% is going to be indigenous. So what we do know is that at least 50% of this fleet is going to be indigenous. We are hoping it is going to be more than that, perhaps even go up to 60%. Also, second one is that it is going to be assembled in India, which is likely to be 80%. That's going to be a big one. The contract lock-in, however, says that close to 30% is likely to be local sourcing. The final assembly line is going to be at Dassault Reliance Aerospace Limited, which is the facility in Nagpur. There are going to be also major structures, fuselage sections, as well as wings, which are likely to be built by Tata Advanced Systems, which is going to be in Hyderabad. But not just that. Dassault is also committing to a deeper industrial footprint. A dedicated MRO hub is likely to be set up at Jewar as well for Rafale airframe and engine maintenance. So you have France's aerospace company Safran that is also going to be setting up an M88 engine manufacturing hub right here in India. They are going to ensure that there is a support facility in Hyderabad. So you see how over the next few years you are going to be seeing the building of an infra, even though in the first tranche we are going to get ready-made built-in jets which are going to be built in France and then delivered to India. In fact, let's move on and tell you how India has already negotiated the right to integrate Indian weapons and mission systems into the Rafale. And this is going to be a very key sticking point which has been in the talks earlier. We managed to have a massive breakthrough in the talks due to this. Well, India, that means, is now going to be free. We have the right to fit our own weapons onto it, right to fit our own missiles. Whatever we want, we can customize it ourselves and not limit the Rafales to only French arms, French ammunition, French weapons and French missiles. This gives IAF a sharper tactical edge. So what are the weapons that India can possibly fit into the Rafales? Well, the BrahMos. This is one of the tried and tested missiles. India, Russia, of course, came together to create this one, and it can be mounted onto the Rafales. The Meteor missile, long range, A-to-A, is also a possibility. Astra missile, indigenous, A-to-A, air-to-air that is, can also be mounted on the Rafale platform. Indian targeting pods can be mounted as well as mission software layers. However, core source codes remain with France, a limitation that India has accepted in order to, remember, fast-track this induction rather than reopen negotiations all over again. However, this is still, in the long run, going to be a big boost when it comes to our defense manufacturing capabilities. Now, viewers, the Defense Acquisition Council has cleared, as I was telling you, this massive defense push of 3 lakh crore rupees. But the final nod now is going to come from none other than the Raksha Mantri. The Cabinet Committee on Security, which is headed by Prime Minister, is also going to then, that is going to be the final nod. All eyes are going to be on Macron's February visit. Macron is set to, remember, visit India on 17th of February, and it is expected that this Rafale deal will be sealed during his visit. Deliveries could begin, and that is going to be significant. When does it really start coming into India? The deliveries are expected to begin by 2030. So another roughly 4 years, with India-built jets rolling out in the early 2030s. So this isn't just a purchase, it's a power shift in the skies itself. Why are we saying that? Well, there you have it on your screens. Let's tell you, if this deal is inked during President Macron's February visit, it is going to be a huge one. But at the end of it, we are going to tell you how it's not just going to expand the fleet, it will emerge as the largest Rafale power fleet that we have on the planet. Sky-dominating arsenal, unmatched anywhere else, from the Air Force's lethal air superiority edge to Navy's carrier-borne strike punch. This is going to be Rafale's supremacy taking shape. So we are going to break down what is the sheer number of Rafale power which is going to be there with our Braves. If you look at the Air Force, currently the Air Force already has 36 Rafales. This was part, remember, of the 2016 deal. Now you have a new deal as well, which we are talking about right now, 114 Rafale F-4 jets, which has been given the approval. This will take the total IAF fleet to 150 approximately. Then you have the Navy. Navy also has its own set of Rafale wings. The deal worth 63,000 crore rupees has been inked in April last year. 26 Rafale M jets are going to be for craft carriers. Deliveries are going to be expected somewhere till 2030. So this takes India's total Rafale arsenal. The entire fleet of Rafales that are available with our forces is roughly 176. So viewers, back to the big question. Why now? Why is India moving ahead with another Rafale deal? Well, let's decode the reason behind this decisive move by the government. The IF squadron shortfall, and this is glaring to say the least. The shortfall is immense. The Indian Air Force is currently operating 29 out of the 42 squadrons which have been sanctioned. They could have had 42, they only are operating 29 of them. And that is the problem. MiG-21's phase-out gap is also something that we are looking at, which will happen only when we have new wings. Now, let's look at the geopolitical reasons as well. We know the kind of rising friction that we've seen in the past with Pakistan. Right after Operation Sindoor, the Raksha Mantri has said that Operation Sindoor is just on pause. It is not over. India needs to be prepared, not just against Pakistan, but also against China. Also, why Rafale F-4s? Because of this very reason, the fact that it is a proven 4.5 generation fighter that we have seen during operations in the last couple of years, deep precision strike capability, advanced electronic warfare suit, high-end sensor fusion, combat tested in Indian conditions. And perhaps the last one is the most significant, that it's now tried and tested. So let me go across to our panelists and ask a couple of questions that every one of us wants the answers for. Joining us today on the show, we have Air Marshal Rajiv Sachdeva, the former Deputy Chief of Integrated Defence Staff. Air Vice Marshal Nitin Vaidya is also joining us, ATC expert. I'm going to start first with you, Air Marshal Sachdeva. Many are saying, the critics, and this is mostly from the opposition, I admit, but the critics of this deal are saying, what about our Make in India dream? Yes, we all want security, but what about self-reliance? Did Make in India take a hit with this massive deal that India signed with France?
Well, first of all, good evening to everybody. And let me tell you, when we're talking about Make in India, we are also looking at the geopolitics. We are also looking at our adversaries. We are also looking at fighting with them with the best. Because if they are going to get the best, if they are going to get the best from the world, then we can't say that we are building our own and we are still lagging behind the technology which they have. Just remember, not more than 75, 77 years ago, when we got our independence, we were a poor nation. We had no money. And this particular company, which is giving us 175 Rafales, and they've already given us 100 Mirage 2000s. So that means you have a total package of about 275 aircraft from a single company, like the Su-30, where you have similar numbers from one company in Russia. They are building aeroplanes for last 97 years. They have thrown 10,000 aeroplanes to 90 countries in the world. Can we suddenly rise to that level? When they were doing this, when they were building their technology, we were a poor nation. HAL was there. Yes, a private company, HAL, came up during that time. It was taken over by the Allied forces in the Second World War. Entire 100% shares were bought off from the HAL, and HAL was used as a repair and salvage industry. Imagine when India got independence and the HAL moved into us, because it was a government-owned industry by the Britishers. So it became a government-owned industry when India became. We were just repairing aeroplanes. Building aeroplanes from there to match up with the world will take time. Now you're talking about a 3 lakh crore worth of deal which has come up. And if at all this 30% thing is going to be made in India, that's almost 1 lakh crore. Can you imagine 1 lakh crore worth of business into aviation being given to Indian industry? So please just don't worry that there's going to be a setback. We are yet to lift our head up. C295 is the first example of similar thing. 16 aeroplanes flown off from Spain, 40 being built by Tata. What next? Tata has already got their plans ready. What next after 40? Do they sell more to us, to Navy, to Coast Guard, or they start exporting? And will they be better than what we have already got? That is about 7-8 years from now. So this is a baby step. It's not a baby step. In fact, it is actually a leapfrog which we're going in. Giantly, we don't have the capability to build aeroplanes today. That doesn't mean that we stick behind. Well, the world is changing. And our adversaries, we used to talk about 2 front, then 2.5 front. Now we have a 3.5 front. And even the third front is also getting better aeroplanes. JF-17s are coming to them.
The need right now is urgent. And which is why perhaps we have that deal being inked as early, as expeditiously as possible. Air Vice Marshal Vaidya, one of the biggest sticking points that the Indian negotiators had to maneuver around was to ensure that we have the right to equip these Rafales with whatever it is that we want. Not just French arms, weapons, missiles, but even Indian ones. Why was that so significant? For example, to have the BrahMos mounted on the Rafale platform.
It's very important to have complete flexibility after we own an aircraft. And the very fact that we have gone into this kind of a negotiation where we have our own systems built onto it at our own will and freedom gives us complete maneuverability in using the aircraft the way we want. And adding to what Air Marshal Sachdeva said, we have actually done a very giant leap in terms of getting the technology done. You are also aware that India has got into also manufacturing, or at least the process has started to make the advanced combat aircraft. The companies have been shortlisted. So just imagine the amount of turnover that is going to happen in our ecosystem as far as fighter aviation is concerned. On one hand, we have got the Rafale aviation giving us 114 Rafale aircraft, for which at least 40% if we have started manufacturing in India, it is more than a lakh crore, as what Air Marshal Sachdeva said. We have the advanced combat aircraft that we are likely to build. And not to forget the very fact that Tejas Mark 1A is in production. Mark 2A with G414 is also likely to happen. We have already reached the deal with the G company in America.
Well, unfortunately, there is a bit of a problem with the audio connection. We are going to try and get that sorted. Air Marshal Sachdeva, I'm going to come back to you. You were talking about the timelines. Now, it's interesting to see, and it's important that we explain this to our viewers. Many would wonder, why is it taking so much time? Why is it that we are taking some in flyaway condition? Some are going to be made in India. That's only going to be the next step. Can you explain the rationale behind the staggered delivery system which is put in place 2030 onwards?
See, first of all, I really don't know what the Air Force plans are, but today we have one Rafale squadron in the north and one is in the east. How about one in the down southwest? So this is 18 aeroplane coming in is equal to one squadron worth of aeroplanes. Maybe that's what the Air Force is thinking of. So you have 3 squadrons of Rafales in all the 3 directions ready to play around. And the factories have to be set up in India. The tier 2, tier 3 vendors have to be cultivated and built up in India. Because if 30% of the equipment which is put in the Rafale has to be built in India, those companies have to be nurtured and brought up. 2030 means just 4 years. I'm shocked. How can they do it in 4 years? Building up an aviation capable equipment to be put on an aeroplane which is flying with so many countries. And within 4 years, if you're going to do it, that's a huge leap. Actually, we are expecting a lot from our tier 2, tier 3 industry. Thereafter, moving up to 50-60%, I'm sure the engines, once they're being manufactured in India, only then we can touch that 50-60%, because the electronic and the other suits are all going to be from France. India is good in making missiles. India is good in air-to-air and air-to-ground missiles. We've developed our own. Fitting them on a piece of aeroplane which is coming from abroad requires a real handshake between the 2 countries. That means whatever we are making we do that on Sukhois, we do that on Mirages. Not doing it on this aeroplane, if the French has agreed to do that, I think we've really got a father of all deals, or maybe grandfather of all deals. It's a beautiful deal that all your missiles which you're making in India are being used on an aeroplane which is coming from abroad. Maybe, I don't know. But maybe during off-Sindhu, we were not able to use them.
The big, beautiful deal for India, let's just call it that. Air Marshal Sachdeva, before we wrap up the show, you had touched upon this bit that India needs to be ready. India needs to be prepared for any future battles. And how many fronts are we fighting at? Why is Rafale the best bet? Why not anything else? Why Rafale?
2 squadrons of Rafale. You've already got an aeroplane which has proven itself. It takes 2016 was a deal when the Prime Minister signed it in France. The Rafale was being worked 10 years before that. It takes 20 years to select a new aeroplane. You already have an aeroplane which is readily available. A excellent deal which is going to happen. 2 squadrons already operating. Air Force is used to it. Why go into another 20 years selecting another aeroplane? So that is why and we're talking about 29 squadrons which are going to drop soon to 26. So that means 16 more squadrons required.
Are required.
And 16 more squadrons required to a sanctioned strength of 1970s. Today the fronts have increased.
Absolutely.
Maybe we require 50 squadrons. Maybe we require 50 squadrons tomorrow. I really don't know. Some mathematics must have been worked out by the Air Force. But at least get that what the government is sanctioned. Even these Rafales will fall short. We'll still not reach 42. By then, our LCA Mark 1, Mark 1A is filling up.
It's already
HCL
an aging
is not-
fleet. It's already an aging
No.
fleet. We require to amp it up because you're absolutely right, Air Marshal Rajiv Sachdeva, that India needs to be prepared. And what perhaps could be better than ensuring that we also bring about self-reliance in defense manufacturing as well. India may just be the next big hub. Yes, it takes some time, it takes some planning, but well, it's already been expedited. Thank you so much, both of you, as well as Air Marshal Nitin Vaidya, for joining us here on the show. With that, we wrap up this bulletin. Thank you so much for watching.